Bang! Neeves Knives, I'm Jared, and today's video is about them bangers. The knives that pretty much everybody wants in their collection. And if you go in the comment section and talk bad about one of these knives, you better be prepared, because there's going to be about 168 people in your ass. So we're going to talk about a bunch of different companies right now. Some of them, you know, are obviously going to be a little more controversial than others, but pretty much all these are absolute gems in a knife collection. Starting it off, Holt knives. The Holt knives Specter, the Holt knives Morpheus. These are knives that are some of the smoothest knives you've ever experienced. The detent is so crisp and so clean. I don't have one, but I absolutely want one. They start at about $1,000 and then go up. They're not really hard to get. They're just expensive, but man, oh man, are they good. Like, when you feel one of those, like there's some knives you get and you're like, this is a high-end knife, you know, like it's almost like your experience is a little less, or a lot less than you would have imagined. But when you mess with a Holt, you get that full experience of what a high-end knife should feel like. I mean, the detent is just so crisp, it's super snappy, it has a beautiful sound. When you disengage it, the thing just, it falls like so freely, even though it is super, super solid. The fit, the finish, the little details on it, just everything is absolutely outstanding. And I definitely want to get one of these in the collection one of these days. The next one, Grimsmos. So there's two knives. We got the Norseman and the Rask. Now the Rask is arguably very close and similar to something like a Holt. And then there's other companies too that we could speak of that maybe we'll talk about here in just a minute that are also similar to that. But they also have the Norseman. The Norseman, people say its blade shape looks like a horse's cock, but it's such an iconic knife. You know when you see it. It's been ripped off so many times. And I mean by companies trying to clone it. It is an amazing knife. I've gotten to experience them. Again, these are knives that it's such a crispy, clean breaking action with some of the smoothest closing deployment or closing action you could imagine. I personally think they're beautiful. I think they look good. And, you know, everybody who has one talks about how useful it is and how great it is as an actual user. Now, the Rask is a very simple looking knife. That one's a little bit harder to get, I think, than the Norseman, but equally as good. You know, super, super smooth, amazing action, amazing fit and finish. They are made in Canada, and they do an amazing job with them. Next one, you know, let's drop it down a little bit and we'll pick it back up. We're gonna drop it down, pick it back up. So we're gonna talk about a couple like production companies that recently came in swinging, okay? So one of them is Null Knives. Null Knives Voodoo. So I actually got one of these, just recently got one of these, and I got to review it. I got to try it. I've gotten to try, you know, a couple different versions of it, you know, because I was along for the ride during the journey. And yeah, man, this is one of the best thumb stud action knives you could ever imagine, because the shape of the thumb studs is designed for you to use it in any way, shape, or form. Then around the thumb stud, it has a fuller, so you can also do the reverse flick. Nice deep hollow ground sheep's foot blade, gorgeous lines. Everything from Null Knives has been amazing. I don't think they can miss at this point. I'm hoping I don't eat those words, so hopefully their next design doesn't tank. But as far as everything I've seen from them so far, they've been absolutely amazing. Even right now, I have a prototype of theirs that's going into production. That's going to be a pre-order, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's super well done. And then, you know, some of the little details they're going to change and tune on this thing doesn't even need to happen. That, you know, that's when you know a company's really awesome. When they take something that's so perfect and they're like, you know what, we're going to just a little bit more, just make it a little bit more perfect. So check out Null Knives. Like I said, he does have a pre-order open right now. Next would be VARGA. VARGA, and I recently just talked about these guys. So VARGA, he has a pre-order open too. And I did a video recently talking about why I don't talk about them no more, even though I wanted to so bad, because it's one of my favorite knives in my collection. It is such an amazing knife. It's damn near a perfect knife, if not a perfect knife. Now he has two new sizes coming, a small and a large. And both of them, like if I had to pick between the small and the large, that's tough. That's tough because the small is a perfect size knife. Like it's not a small knife, it's a perfect size knife. And then so is the other two. It's just, they're just slightly bigger, but even the large is not like an insanely big knife. It's a great size knife. So yeah. Everything that I've seen from VARGA so far, you know, the only thing I've really seen, I think the only thing he's done is the VBR, but he's tweaked it. So, you know, there's been different versions of it. But, you know, hey, man, when you have a design that is so good, it's like, you know, I'm not saying he shouldn't do more designs because I'd love to see more stuff come out of VARGA's, you know, or from VARGA's designs. But yeah, man, he has tweaked that design into a masterpiece. Next would be Cheryl Goroff, man, Cheryl Goroff. They're made in Russia. These knives are, you know, back in the day, when I first joined the community, there was a saying, and it was a Cheryl Goroff action. Like if you got a knife that had a super clean breaking detent with basically a controlled closing action where it doesn't just slam shut, but where it literally has just a nice controlled pace all the way down until it closes. That was called Cheryl Goroff action because Cheryl Goroff was the one that kind of mastered it at first. Now, aside from their action being really good, and I know there are some knives that are a little bit more underwhelming than others, like there's been a couple Shiros that I wasn't that big of a fan of, but then there's some that it's like, holy cow, this thing's amazing. And here's where it comes in, is long term. I have a few Shiros, or 3 Shiros, and I've used the heck out of them, carried them, flipped them tens of thousands of times, and it's almost like they're still brand new. While some knives, that their hardware backs out, you know, parts come loose, they start getting play, they start getting detent lash, just all like little things happen. The Shiros, man, they stay vault-like forever, or what it seems. You know, I'm sure obviously there's a breaking point for all knives, but then the little details they have, the little details, you know, that are just masterful, you know, like say the clip. I have one that has a detent ball underneath the clip in order to prevent it from shifting back and forth. You know, just the little tiny details, like from where the landing zone is for your finger when you flip it, to the lock bar access, to how early the detent is on the closing. That goes for some of them, because I do know that there is one that has a very late detent, and I actually didn't like it because of that reason, because when I think of Shiros, I think of where you never fumble with the detent when you're closing it. And what I'm talking about is when you disengage a frame lock or a liner lock, you're gonna hit the detent ball or go past it. With Shiros, you always past it. It's so smooth. You can just disengage it and let it fall. So Cheryl Goroff's absolutely amazing. Next is, now this one's gonna be a little controversial, just a little bit. Hinderer. So hear me out, because, you know, there is one complaint that people can make about Hinderers, and that, well, maybe more than one, but there's especially one, and that is their HRCs on their steels. They are running their steels soft. Now, I know their argument would be, well, it's a hard use knife. They want the steels to be tough as can be, but to me, it's like, then just use a tough steel. just use a tough steel. And let's be clear, their geometry is super thick. There's no reason for them to run it soft. You know, the geometry is already super thick, so that covers the toughness. But anyways, my point on bringing them up is that they are still one of, if not the best tactical knife you can get. I mean, I'm talking about as solid as a frame lock can get. The parts, there's just so many, there's so many parts and backspacers, and just, there's so much to the construction to make it like a damn tank. And I love that. I love the thought of a knife just being like built like a damn backhoe. Like it's built like a bulldozer. And that's how they are. They are absolutely knives that you would feel like could last through some bad stuff. Like if you had to take it into, and I'm not saying a folding knife is made for a battlefield or anything like that, but there are a few knives that you feel confident with. And a Hinderer, the XM24, the XM18 are definitely in that area. They are real folding tactical knives, and I gotta give them credit for it. Next is, you know, and speaking about folding tactical knives, let's talk about some damn tanks. Medford. Say what you want about Medford, but the knives that he makes, while they might not be contoured titanium and all this stuff, the machining and the tolerances are insane. They are, some of them are almost too tight because, you know, some of them they have to break in and it takes time. I do like his knives that they're coming with bearings now, but his other designs, you know, that came with washers, they take a while to break in because they are so tight, but they eventually get very, very smooth. But he's got some of the most thickest brick-like geometry on any knife. Like, you feel like you could pry the door off of a tank with one of his knives. But he also has some very EDC friendly knives as well with thinner geometry. So he does hit all the markets. And people that don't keep up with them, people tend to say things that I just don't think they know. Like, you know, they don't realize how many designs he has now and how he has a lot of EDC designs now, or how many steels he's using right now. He's using so many different steels, and Medford does a good job with their heat treatment. All their heat treatment is done in small batches, so they can, you know, really, you know, anchor down, you know, a good quality heat treat and HRC. But yeah, Medford, USA made, proudly made, 100% USA made, and they are absolute badassery. And some of them are right there, like I said, absolute folding tactical knives made for a battlefield. Next, Herman. So we were talking about the Holt knives and the Grimsmo Rask. So the Herman is very similar to the Grimsmo Rask. Now, let me just shout out Polish Custom Knives really quick, because I do have an affiliate link with them. I have an affiliate link. If you want to get any Polish custom knives, check out that link down in the description. I personally think they have pretty good deals on their knives. Now, these are not cheap knives, right? It's a Herman. It's an expensive knife, but they have pretty good prices, and they have an abundance of things, you know, things to choose from. So definitely just check it out. They have more stuff than that, so check out everything they have. They have a bunch of different knife designers and stuff on there as well. But the Herman knives, man, the sound, the thunk that it has when you deploy it, the tolerances, the fit, the finish, the way the lock bar feels when you disengage it, all these little details are kind of what makes the experience of a knife. You know, when you're about to flip it, you know, and the way the detent breaks, the way it engages when it locks up. When you go to close it, the way the disengagement feels, how smooth it is on the drop, the sound it makes when it closes. All these things are what makes the experience. And Herman gives you a great experience. Similar to, like I said, some of the other companies I was saying. Now, he has a couple different designs. The one that I have is the Sting. And there's all different versions too, because these are, you know, these are pretty much custom knives. So, you know, you're going to have different flavors and things like that. So, but Herman knives, man, he's a Polish custom knife maker, and he knocks it out of the park. There's there's a reason why so many people hold them up. They're so regarded, let's put it that way. They are definitely highly regarded as one of the better knives in the knife community. And all these knives, by the way, all these knives are right there. So, but yeah, like I said, definitely check out Polish Custom Knives because they got some amazing Herman knives on their site. And Herman knives, like I said, man, you feel like it's money well spent. Next. Now, we're going to drop it down a little bit. So I know we've been up here with the prices, but we're going down here. But nobody can debate this. And I started thinking about it. What is the company? The company that nobody would, that if you talked crap about, people would come from come from everywhere just to freak out on you if you talked crap about this company. And that is Cold Steel. Cold Steel Knives has a cult-like following, and the reason why is because these are absolute vaults. For under $100, you can get the strongest locking system on the planet. I'm talking about, and people will argue that the Shark Lock is as strong, if not stronger than the Triad Lock, but here's the thing. The Shark Lock, I'm not 100%, but from what I've seen, it does not handle hard use abuse long term. While it can hold 700 pounds from the spine, it's not going to take a week's worth of batoning, right? But guess what will? A damn Cold Steel with a Triad Lock, an 80-10, a 4-max. These knives have, when they lock up, when they're locking gauges, you hear the crack. It's a crack. You hear it. It just engages so nicely. And they do use a back lock, but it's a Triad lock, so it's way strong. They took the back lock and basically put a stop pin in there and made it to where the pin or it's like a keyed lock where it like falls down into the cutout on the blade in between the stop pin, making it an absolute vault. Like it's so strong. And it's made to only get stronger as you apply pressure. So as you beat on it, it only gets tougher, it only gets stronger because of the way the lock is designed. It's a knife you can absolutely baton with. It's a knife you can absolutely hard use. And that's crazy, right? Because normally when you say hard use, you're thinking fixed blades and things like that. You know, never a folding knife. Unless you're talking about Cold Steel. So if you talk crap about Cold Steel, you better watch out. You better watch your back because they will come for you. And you know what? And I didn't even realize how good they were, to be honest. When I first joined the community, you know, I had tried a few of them. I was like, yeah, these are pretty good. But I didn't realize. I didn't realize until over time when I had them, you realize like these are knives that are virtually indestructible, yet affordable. Like, it's insane. And the last one I want to talk about is Rockstead. So, Rockstead, Japanese-made knives. I'm sure anybody watching this already knows who they are, but I feel like I should explain just in case. So, Rockstead knives, like I said, they're made in Japan at the highest level. When you think of, like, say, a samurai sword, when you think of a samurai sword, you don't think of a sword made in China. You think of an authentic Japanese-made sword. Something made by people that passed down the tradition year after year after year, generation after generation. That's the way I feel like Rockstead is as far as Japanese folding knives go. It's the authentic Japanese folding pocket knife that's at the highest level. Now, what they specialize in, aside from tolerance, fit, finish, and things like that, they're heat treat and HRCs. They're using ZDP 189 usually. They have another steel they use, but they run them at high HRC, so their steel is extremely hard. Then they hand polish them. Not all of them are polished, but a lot of them are. And they're convexed down to a 0 grind. So they're a perfect convex grind. There's no edge bevel. They do have some with edge bevels, but a lot of them, at least the ones I have, they are convex down to a 0 grind. Rockstead has, in my opinion, is the sharpest knives you can ever get out of the box. I'm talking about super high level sharpness coming from Rockstead. Now, because of their HRCs being so high on their steels and them taking such good quality care of their steels, it also holds that high level of sharpness for an incredible long time. They are absolute gems. They're masterpieces. They're very expensive, but they are a knife that you can feel. You can absolutely feel the quality that goes into them. Now, they're not drop shutty, they're not on bearings, they are usually on washers. I don't think they have any Rocksteads on bearings, I could be wrong, but Rocksteads, instead of having a false shut bearing type action, it has a really tight tolerance action, where it's almost like it's moving on wet glass, where it's the same consistency as you roll it open. It's more of a slow rolling knife, more than a flicking knife. You can flick them, but when you slow roll them, it's like the pivot, it feels like wet glass. It's the same consistency all the way open as it is all the way closed. You have to manually shut it. You can kind of shake them shut after they break in, but the feeling of them being so smooth is very satisfying. And you know, you can tell the type of tolerances they have from that high level of smoothness, you know, the centering, just, you know, the type of lockup it has, and so on. But Rockstead is a great example of what a high-end knife should be. And they do have a lot of fixed blades as well, or some fixed blades as well, but they do things to perfection, and it's a beautiful thing. Now, one other company, really quick, I want to just bring up is Sharp by Design's Brian Nadeau. Now, I'm talking about more of his custom work, but he also has production knives, which those are the ones that I have. I don't have any of his customs, but I do have his production knives, and I love them. They're done so well. Riet is the OEM, and they do an amazing job. Now, as far as his customs go, he is highly regarded in the knife community of being basically one of the best knife makers in the USA. I'm not saying he is the best, but he's definitely in the running. You know, his name's gonna be mentioned when talking about the best knife makers. And he has some custom knives out there that are just so incredible, and you know, from the machining to just everything about them. There's one in particular, the Arch Nemesis. I don't have one, and it's not even my style of a knife. It's not even my style. However, man, I want one. It just, even though it's not my style, I can look at it and see the details of quality that it has. And it is a beautiful knife, a gorgeous knife. And that's another reason why I'd want to get one. But he's known for his detent nub, by the way. So his detent nub, same thing with the Holts, by the way. I should have mentioned that before with the Holts. Holts use a detent nub. Same thing with Brian Nadeau. They use a detent nub, which makes for this incredible braking action, while also when you disengage it, it immediately gets onto the lock bar without fumbling around, you know, with the detent, and gives you glassy, smooth closing action. Either way, all I'm trying to say is that Brian Nadeau's knives are gorgeous knives and very highly regarded in the knife community. And if you have one, it's definitely a prized possession of yours in your knife collection. Now, there's a ton of other ones I could mention, and I could go on and on and on. And I want you guys to help me out by let me know down in the comments, what are some companies I should have put on this list? I know there's a ton of custom knife makers I could have mentioned. You know, I could have made a part 2 and a part 3 of this, and maybe I will. Maybe I will. So this is just the start. Like I said, let me know down in the comments who I left out. Work hard, stay tough. You know society's relying on you. Until next time, peace.